All right, here we go. Late night happy hour, 9:00 start, as we do every Thursday. It's our legal podcast, Law and Sporter. Justin Watkins is here from Battleborn Injury Lawyers. We have some fun stuff. We have some grim stuff that we have to get to, but it should be a good one tonight. What's up, buddy?
What's happening?
Not a whole lot. I'll start out with the grim, as I like to do. We chat often about COVID. We're going to have a bunch of different COVID topics later in the show. And you're always good at explaining the positivity rate and who's giving out the information and what it actually means. So one of the TV stations just tweeted out a little while ago, Nevada sets a new record high for test positivity. Nevada currently sits at an 18.1% 14-day test positivity rate. What does that mean?
Well, I mean, again, the test positivity rate depends on how you measure it, right? There's the state measures it based on total tests versus total positives, and some of the other outlets measure it based on total persons tested. Doesn't matter how many tests they have versus total positives. And so, I mean, the positivity rates by either measure ain't great, right? Like the World Health Organization says you want that to be around 5%. That means you're testing a whole heck of a lot of people who don't have it, and they want to encourage a whole heck of a lot of testing. But the problem is our numbers are so high right now that I saw that right before Thanksgiving, UMC changed their testing recommendations. So that's where I'd previously gotten tested, on the drive-through over at Thomas and Mack. And I thought it was really well run, good stuff. And they said, unless you got symptoms or unless you were exposed to somebody who had a positivity rate, like, please don't come and get tested. We need to prioritize our testing. Yeah. And if you've previously tested positive, don't come back. Basically, wow. They're adopting the CDC's guidelines, which says you got to wait 10 days from the onset of symptoms, and at least is either 24 or 48 hours from when the symptoms stop. So don't come back to get a negative test, because number one, it doesn't always go negative when you're no longer contagious. And number two, you're taking away tests from people who are trying to find out whether or not they're positive and whether or not they're contagious, because the CDC's new guidelines say, hey, after 10 days of onset and 24 hours after outset of symptoms, then the viral load's not high enough for you to be contagious anymore. So I mean, I don't know what to believe, right? Like I don't know what to do about it, other than, try to be as careful as you can. If you got symptoms or anything that you fear are symptoms and you haven't previously tested positive, go get tested, find out, right? If you're positive, lock down for at least 10 days. I don't know what else to, I don't know what else to say. And I know people are tired of hearing about COVID talk, but that's where we're at. And I think we set a record today on deaths, 48 in the state.
Yikes. So, yeah, it was really, it was very crowded over the weekend, trying to get an appointment anywhere to get a test. So
yep.
It's getting crazy. And actually, I saw that one of our good friends in the media, legendary boxing announcer Al Bernstein, has it. And he said he's doing well so far. Any symptoms he had were minor. They're starting to dissipate. So rooting for Al. Hopefully nothing happens to him. But, yeah, he's got COVID.
Yeah, I'm rooting for everybody, man. Right? Like, let's all get through it. It'll be interesting. Like, years from now, they'll be able to come up with some data about exactly how many people had it. I think this latest CDC's guidelines were something on the order of, they believe 40 to 45% of people exhibit no symptoms. And so those people are probably never getting tested. And, right. How many people have actually had it? We won't know, I don't think, truly know before like the vaccine comes into effect and everything gets worked out. But man, a lot of people.
Mark and LV saying he tested negative 11 days ago. Negative result for the antibodies. All right.
I'll test negative. Yeah. Good. Yeah. I wonder if when they get the vaccine out, if they're going to do antibody tests before they give you the vaccine. If you got antibodies, I wonder if they're going to prioritize you lower. I don't know.
Probably should, right?
I don't know. I don't know what the research says on that. Like, I know there are cases of people who've gotten it twice. It seems ultra rare, but there's that, and then there's also, I guess, the antibodies that I don't. I'm talking, you know, way out of my qualifications here, but the half-life of the antibodies dissipates so quickly that it, like, let's say you were positive in January, February, or March, like you're not gonna be positive for antibodies now.
Adam is working hard this week. He's got a bunch of extra stories that he's working on, and he told us the other day on the air that he actually did get an interview with Dabo Swinney. He talked to him, so he's going to write a feature on the Raiders players from Clemson with reaction and quotes from Dabo Swinney. I want to follow up on a story that we touched on yesterday with you, and also we did it today with another one of our legal guys, Xavier Pope, and that was the Dr. Fauci saying, hey, with the COVID, with the vaccine, hopes are that we'll have full football stadiums by the fall. And I threw the question on air at you and also at Xavier, like, what happens when people are like, no, I'm coming in. Like, you can't make, I'm an American. You can't make me take a vaccine. So your answer was good. It's like, hey, you know, they can tell you can't buy a ticket, and you'll have to show proof you got vaccinated. And in fact, they can just do it online. And unless you have proof, you can't even buy the ticket. So people shouldn't be showing up with some sort of ticket, I guess, unless they scalped it, and, you know, pissing and moaning at the gates of the game. But I wanted to go next level because obviously you don't have to have online access to get a ticket to go to Walmart or Target or a grocery store. What are those places going to do? Are we talking about they're going to have to staff up and have a couple of security guards out front? You know, hey, wear your papers, and if not, it's taser time. You want to come in? We're taking you out.
I don't think they're going to do that. You know, I think that the big companies that have essential services, the grocery stores, you know, the Walmarts of the world, the Targets of the world that you need to go to get your daily living things, supplies, essentials. I don't think that they're going to say you can't shop here unless you prove that you've been vaccinated. I think what they're going to do in that situation is make sure that all of their people who work there are vaccinated. And that's kind of the best they can do. You know, if they try to exclude, and logistically, I don't think they can get through that. There's just way too high a volume. And then legally, I don't think they want to put themselves as a standard bearer for those lawsuits, because things are just going to get a little crazy. There is precedent for requiring vaccinations for, you know, public services, schools that exists. You know, you have to be vaccinated to put your kid in a public school. There are some states that have a little bit more lax rules on that. It's going to be state to state, and private schools can do what they think is best in that situation. And then, of course, you have some homeschool options now. It's interesting. My partner Matt, he went to Hawaii over Thanksgiving. And so their requirement was you have to have a negative test within 72 hours of landing in Hawaii. And it has to be one of the approved tests. And so you can go to the state of Hawaii's website and it tells you their approved sort of testing and locations and all that. But it's difficult. There's a lot of people trying to do it. And what you end up doing is you end up getting a home kit with saliva, and they have a doctor that will video in, walk you through the process, watch you do it, watch you seal it, and then you FedEx it or UPS it out to a lab, and then they'll turn around the results within 24 or 48 hours. So you get it there within 24, you get your results 24 to 48 hours, and then the hope is, you know, you have the results before you take off. In Matt's situation, he's got 2 boys and a wife. 2 of them had negative results, and the other 2 didn't have their results before they got on the plane.
Oh, no.
And so he's like, get on the plane. Like, because you could still fly, but when you get there, if the result is positive, then you got to go back. Or if you don't have the results, then you have to quarantine until you can get the results, which sounds not that bad, right? Like, okay, cool, I'll just go to my hotel and quarantine. But that not all hotels are approved by the state for quarantine. So you have to go to a designated quarantine hotel. So, like, that's not the place I want to be, is hanging out with all the people who don't know if they're positive or not. But luckily, by the time they landed, they got the other two results, and they said Hawaii was awesome. There was like nobody there. They had the resort, the beaches to themselves. They felt really comfortable. When they landed in Hawaii, they had to go through Honolulu, and they said it was like armed militia checkpoints. Like, it was like the COVID protocol was like going through customs as if you'd just come from, an undeveloped country.
So what they did, they must ask some questions about like what was coming. Is this going to work? Is this what they're doing? They're not shutting down at any point. Like nothing, no like super restrictions are coming
in Hawaii.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty strong. But I mean like shutting the state down. My question relates to Hawaii. I'm sorry, UNLV is supposed to play Hawaii.
Yep.
Next week for the final game of the season, and I had heard that they were shutting the whole thing down, and Hawaii might have to come here to play the final game, but it sounds like they're going in a good direction in Hawaii.
Yeah, I mean, they have shut the whole thing down for most of this time. Matt was going to Maui, so I can only speak to Maui right now based on his knowledge, and they have 7 total positives on the whole island. So they are super restrictive, but Oahu apparently is the one who's mucking it up for everybody. All the other islands are really strict, but Oahu's, where everybody's going to come through. And so they're worried about another shutdown, but obviously their resort, I mean, they're driven by visitorship as well. And so they're walking that fine line, do we allow people in? Do we get this back up and started? I heard just now, December 1st, they changed it to 72 hours from when you first leave the ground, because that little window of time is proving more effective at getting the results than 72 hours from when you land in your final destination. Because if you're going to 2 different islands, you might be on the plane for 9 hours, and that's just 9 hours you can't be testing at home, right? You got to wait.
So going back to restrictions with stadiums and arenas,
yep.
Brady was asking, can they do that at public university stadiums where they're like, hey, you got to have a vaccination, otherwise you can't get in?
I think yes, right? Like the constitutionality of it is going to, I think, pass muster, which is, number one, we're not dealing with any fundamental rights. You don't have a fundamental right to attend a sporting event. So all that's going to be required on review of that by a court is there a rational basis for the restriction? Rational basis is we're in the middle of a freaking pandemic, and this is a large gathering, and the only way we could do that safely, according to CDC and all the other federal state guidelines, is if we only allow in vaccinated people for the safety of the athletes, for the safety of the patrons. And so, like we talked about on air the other day, the time at which I cussed on air, it was this story.
What? No one heard that. What are you talking about?
The only time it 10 years. It took 10 years, and I let her rip.
For folks who were listening, Justin dropped an F-bomb, and I don't think it got out. Ari said he did his job. So
yeah. So
you're getting loose. You're getting comfortable. You're getting loose. That's all right.
It's these, man. I had the AirPods in because we were doing it remotely, and I thought we were on the podcast, but I think it's super easy with the technology that's available today, right? Like when we go to a VGK game, right? They don't even do paper tickets. They got it on the phone. I've got my unique barcode, and they can absolutely on my account have me associated with upload your vaccination records. Cool, you're good to go. Yeah, can people get around? I'm sure they could, but it's I think they can make it pretty dang difficult for people to get around it. And let's say 1 or 2 or 3 or a handful of positive people get into the arena. In theory, everybody else is vaccinated, right? So the risk is very limited there.
Right. Our buddy Jim Gemma says, he's read that Ticketmaster is contemplating doing the same thing for concerts. I mean, this would be the way to start getting concerts going sooner than later, right? Now, I think I'm not
I
going
heard
to say
they're
whoever has the vaccine early on, that's just tough luck. And it's obviously it's going to be a lot of frontline workers. So if frontline workers get to go to concerts before the rest of us, I'm not going to complain.
there's a cool little tool on the New York Times. I mean, it's pretty simplistic, but you enter in just some basic information, your age, your health, whether or not you've had some symptoms or not, and whether or not you're an essential worker or work in one of these 4 different industries. And then it tells you where you're at in line for getting the vaccination.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, yeah. So there's 330 million people in the United States. I think I was at number 250 million. So I'm going to be the last get. I should have run for office. Maybe as an elected leader, I would have been considered an essential person and got a vaccination. But
that'll go. If that happens,
yeah,
that'll go real well.
Yeah, no kidding.
If politicians are already too dumb to actually follow their own state's rules that they're trying to employ, so the next one will be hey, I got my vaccine. Like while 300 million of us are waiting, local politicians are getting them and showboating about it.
Well, it'd be tricky, right? I think it wouldn't be bad for state because, like, when the legislature gets together, Nevada has a fairly small legislature, right? There's only 63. So 63 people in the building, be pretty easy to vaccinate. But even if they weren't vaccinated, between like they did the special session, they just didn't allow in the public or the lobbyist, which isn't ideal, right? That's not how you want to govern. You don't want to govern without public being in there and commenting and having access to their legislators. But it's better than nothing. But some of the ones that have bigger legislatures, hundreds of people, getting them all together in these chamber nation.
Okay. You froze up again.
Oh,
yeah. No, you're good. You're good. Keep going. Get them together. Large numbers.
Get them together. Yeah, large numbers of people getting together in a small chamber and for hours and not moving, and everybody's breathing inside is not the ideal situation. And I can absolutely say, like, hey, man, passing these laws during a pandemic, getting the budget right, like getting these, especially today in a pandemic, getting these laws in order and regulations online that pertain to what we're living through right now is essential. Getting the dollars budgeted into the people that need it, rental assistance and CARES Act money and getting relief. And right now, we just had the Economic Forum come down today, which, for those who don't know, that's a really big deal for the state of Nevada, because what the Economic Forum does is it projects our state budget out for the next 2 years. It's the numbers that the government uses during our legislative process to determine how much money we're going to have and what to budget. And I think, if memory serves me right, I think the budget difference between last Economic Forum and the last session, the last Economic Forum for the 2019 session, and this one was about a drop of about 1.3 billion. And our total 2-year budget in 2019 was $9.5 billion. So that puts us at like 8.3 billion. It's not insignificant. It's very significant, right? It's about 20% more budget cuts, which for a state that's crazy poor in its state funding, not crazy poor as to its people, but how we fund our government is very significant.
So I want people who are watching right now to think of people and arguments they may be able to present to keep them from having to take the vaccine. Like who could possibly be exempt but still retain a lot of their rights? And Brady asked a good question here, I think. He says, what if they claim religious exemption?
Depends on what they're trying to do, right, Brady? So again, if you're claiming religious exemption for the purposes of going to a stadium to watch a football game, good luck, right? You're not a protected class. Yes, religion is a protected class, but they're not stopping you from exercising your religion in the public forum. So, that has been tested in the public school system, and it has not been upheld in most states. Some states have, right? Some states will allow somebody in there who is not vaccinated, a child who's not vaccinated, based on religious grounds. But for the most part, this is the application of required vaccinations is religious neutral. meaning it's not targeting any religion and it's not targeting any non-religion. It's just what is required for public health and safety. If your religion is against it, and there are religions who are against it, right? Like that, they are stated against vaccinations, then the harm you would cause to everybody else outweighs the inconvenience to you. That's what most of the courts say. But that's not to say you're not going to see it. You will see it, and you will see different results in different states.
So back to the beginning of this conversation about, folks who get all froggy and they're like, hey, I want to get in. I want to get into games. I want to get into concerts. We covered that. We also covered, hey, Walmart, Target, grocery stores. You say, hey, they're not going to get in the business of, the whole vaccine thing and papers and all that. But what that does probably mean through much of 2021, I would think we would still have to wear masks, right? We'd all still have to wear masks at those types of places that aren't going to police at the front end or at any entrance for vaccination information, right? So we'll be wearing masks
I
for a
hadn't
while.
thought about that, but yeah, I think that's right. Or, well, who knows, right? If after, let's say by March, they've vaccinated, let's say 150 million Americans, right? The most at risk, the essential workers, and the elderly. I mean, it's going to start with healthcare, right? And then, as I understand, right after that goes to nursing homes, because these nursing homes are getting obliterated with this. If it finds its way into a nursing home, the death rate is high double digits, right? It decimates the patients in the nursing home. So they're next. Then, as I understand it, after that, it goes to essential workers. Okay, so let's say we have 150 million Americans who have been vaccinated, and another 15 million Americans who have already had the virus. You might see our cases are down so low,
right,
that the mask mandates are lifted. I don't know, but if the numbers are still there, then yeah, I mean, for as long as there's going to be numbers there, you're going to see mask mandates, no doubt about it.
Right. Be patient, everyone who's asking questions. I get to them. I try to eventually. So this one was from a while ago, but we got to time it out, right? We're going in a certain flow. Raphael was saying good hats. Can a new president make an executive order to have everyone wear a mask, no matter where you are? How much power? I don't know who the president is. I have no idea who the president's going to be. But if Trump or Biden decided, what? Now's the time. I'm going to sign this order. We got to mask up. Do they have that power, or is it ultimately a states' rights issue, and also, local cities, municipalities?
I don't know that answer.
Good question,
Certainly, the president can make an executive order that applies to any federal property or land, right? So if you're going to go into federal court, if you're going to go into federal lands, they have the right to require masks, no doubt about it. But in Nevada, that's 80% of the land in the state of Nevada is federally owned, so they could have some pretty far-reaching effects. But state-owned land, private-owned land, whether or not, let's be clear. I think a lot of the orders that are out there, I've said this all along, are unconstitutional if challenged. I've said that. Most of them have been held up, but some of them have not. The Supreme Court recently overturned a case in which they said that on religious grounds that in New York, where Jewish synagogues and Catholic churches were challenging the order against congregating, and the Supreme Court said, yep, the governor overstepped his bounds, unconstitutional. You cannot prevent them from meeting together because some of the things are so personal in nature and physical, like taking communion and what that means in their religion, that you can't prevent them from doing that. Especially, especially if they have plans for how they're addressing it. So I think yes, Brady, the enforcement of a federal mask mandate, if the attempt is for it to be everywhere, you would see they would require enforcement from state and local agencies. If it was just on federal lands, well, they can probably handle most of that part on their own for the enforcement. So it would require such buy-in across the way from the states that I don't know if you're going to see it. I saw a news story today that said Biden was going to ask that everybody wear a mask for the first 100 days of the presidency. He didn't say executive order. I don't know. I'm sure they're looking through the constitutionality of it, and I'm sure they're talking to attorneys who have way more constitutional experience than I do. That's way above my pay grade.
Justin Watkins, Battleborn Injury Lawyers, answering all the questions off the cuff here. I like this question since I'm 50 plus now. Jim Gemma says 74 million people in the U.S. 18 years and younger. They go last, right?
No, they go before me. According to the timeline that's on that New York Times, it's a proposed agenda of how that they would go through this. And after the essential workers, so I think it goes healthcare workers, it goes nursing home residents, and then after that, it goes essential workers. After that, school age kids, and then those, so that's 18 and under. And then it actually says young adults, and then, I'm sorry, the elderly are right after essential workers. Essential workers, elderly, school age kids, young adults, and then somebody who's me, 41 years old with no symptoms, and no what's not deemed as any essential services that I perform. I'm last on the list.
Elderly 50 plus?
I don't know what they determined elderly, but if the numbers, if the numbers of the death rate percentage kick in, I would think it would be 60 and over, right? That seems to be the mark.
Our radio station and radio group is owned by Lotus Broadcasting. To Brady's point, he says he assumes a private business can require employees to be vaccinated. Correct. What if I never go into the building ever again?
If your job duty, well, let's go down that theory, right?
I'm gonna have to go in every once in a while.
Yeah, but let's say you didn't, right? Let's say you have a job that can be performed completely remotely and it's against your religion. Could they still require it? And if you challenge them, would you win? I think you would win that challenge because it is not a part of your job, of your scope of your work, to be in contact with anybody else. You can, in theory, do it in isolation. And so, yeah, you'll see some of those challenges too, because there's a lot of people who are now going to allege my job can be completely done virtually. I just did it for a year.
Right. That'll be interesting because we definitely have some COVID hoaxers in the building. We'll have to get into it down the road, maybe when things calm down a little bit. But I know Ari's concerned. We have another one who's going all doomsday and posting weird shit on Facebook. So maybe one of the reasons I won't be going back there.
JVT, what's up, dude?
Figure I'll be taken out first.
Get him in here.
What? Radio is easy? Okay. Rhymes with, you wouldn't know who it is, so. Yeah. All right. I think I covered. Did I miss anything from that round of questions?
I don't think so.
Oh,
I think
okay. No, this is a good one. What if you're in care of an elderly parent? They live with you. Would you go near the front of the line as well?
Yeah, caregivers, sure.
Do I want to move my parents out here?
Is it worth it?
Nope.
That's the other thing is right. If I don't think we need to be so concerned about, oh man, I'm 250 millionth in line. By the time my number's called, with the number of vaccinations that's gone on, this thing should be relatively gone, right? That's the hope, because I think Dr. Fauci said, in order for this thing to really start being effective, we need 40 to 50% of the population to be vaccinated, or not even the whole country. You can do that in regionally. Like if 40 to 50% of Clark County was vaccinated in theory, and we didn't have a whole bunch of people from all over the world flying in all the time, then we should see it diminish and sort of it can't find enough hosts, and it should wash out. But that's to me, that sounds like by the time my number's called, we should hit the numbers that we need to. And let's not forget, like a lot of so these vaccines are both, I think the two that are approved are 94, 95% effective, and the third one somewhere around 70%. The measles and mumps vaccine, as I understand it, 70%. So 30% of the people that are getting it's not effective, but because there's nobody to cling to for the measles and mumps, it just dies out. There's not enough hosts. So that's where Fauci comes up with the 40 to 50% number, as I understand it.
I feel like someone's dipping into the lubed up eggnog. JVT with the J-Watt. Then what if you're as famous as I am? Do I get first dibs? Then he apparently he's screaming virtually, I am a Von Tobel.
Yeah. I'm sure there'll be some cash pay black market vaccination places that you can go get it.
He's a legacy family, man. They used to own a tool shop, so come on now.
Oh, dude, watch. There's going to be a bunch of people hopping the border down to Tijuana, getting some what they believe to be vaccinations, hopping back across.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I don't know if I do that one. This seems aggressive to me. 50%
really?
Baseball crowds in April and May. 50%?
I say yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. There you go.
What the hell do I know? I don't know shit, right? I'm just
more than we do. Well, I do.
I don't think so. So I think that I think that we're going to see crowds at sporting events starting in I know there are technically crowds right now, but like real crowds, 50% by that end of spring time.
Wow.
Just based on what the Project Warp Speed's projecting, right? They are projecting that they can vaccinate somewhere between 20 and 40 million Americans every month. So that means they're going to start in December, but those are the essential workers. They're not going to hit 20 million people in December. So let's just start in January. January, February, March, April, May, 5 months. Let's just pick that average, 30 million. It's 150 million people. That's half the country, or really close to half the country. Pretty good numbers.
Hey, John, have you been asking me pretty much on a nightly basis about the Christmas movie run, the holiday movie run? I think you are, right? And I'm not ignoring it. We're flowing in a different direction, so we miss it a lot of times. I think John is the one who was asking. Justin, holiday movie guy, you do it for the kids?
Yeah, we are getting there. Like last year was the first year we got them into Home Alone, which is their absolute favorite. They think it's the greatest movie that was ever made. Got that as the holiday movie. Before that we were in cartoon land still, for the most part. So we're getting into them now. Yeah, I like holiday movies. Not the holiday, but okay.
I said I was going to watch one every day the whole season. I started back a couple weeks ago. Let's see. The list so far is Jingle Jangle. By the way, JVT with the Home Alone blows. Okay. Jingle Jangle. It's a new movie. Very good. I would give that an A. I don't like and didn't like Scrooged. And I have a feeling a lot of people like that movie with Bill Murray. I think it was that good.
It was all right.
I watched Mickey's Christmas Carol. Then I was on to a very Harold and Kumar Christmas, and we watched. We didn't have the 3D, but you could see it was 3D. I'll give that a B.
Okay.
The Christmas Chronicles with Kurt Russell as Santa, very good.
You like that? We watched that last year. It was okay.
You didn't like it? Listen, dude, you're not going to get a lot of, no, it wasn't good. I love holiday movies. I am a cheap.
Okay.
The Santa Claus, Tim Allen. I haven't seen 2 and 3 yet, but that's good. I mentioned I saw one the other day was the Happiest Season, and every list I see, it's a relatively new movie. Every list I see has it on it. It's sort of an effort to be super inclusive, and the movie is built around a lesbian couple. So, not that I'm anti-lesbian. I did not like it. No.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. I watched an old movie last night. I actually haven't finished it because it is so long. It's from 1947, called It Happened on Fifth Avenue. It's an interesting premise. And then I've seen the movie before, but Fred Claus is a really good Christmas movie.
Oh,
really good. It's Vince Vaughn. Now I just blanked on the lead. Who's Santa from freaking Billions? Why am I blanking? Well, I just blanked on it, but great actor. Believe it or not, Spacey's in it, which the SO and I were like, oh, they're going to pull this movie? It's going to be a problem. Ari says, have I seen Holiday? No. Carvelli says, fine, nothing great. Jingle all the way, all right.
You got some ones on there that are really missing that I haven't watched yet because they're not safe for the kids.
Paul Giamatti, by the way, is the name.
Yeah.
No, I build to the crescendo. I wait, like the ones I like the most go at the end of the season.
Okay,
like I'm not watching.
3?
Well, my top is It's a Wonderful Life. Boy, the top 3 is tough. This is what I have on the schedule coming up.
Okay.
Miracle on 34th Street will be one of the last ones. It's a Wonderful Life. Elf. Then we go cartoons like A Year Without a Santa Claus. Great one. Santa Claus is Coming to Town. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. At least 2 different versions of Christmas Carol, right? And old ones. Frosty. I've never seen Black Christmas. I want to see that. Muppet Christmas Carol. White Christmas. 4 Christmases. Nightmare Before Christmas. Man Who Invented Christmas. Polar Express. Bad Santa.
There you go. Bad Santa. Christmas. Yeah. You got 2 good ones on there. Christmas Vacation, which I can't watch with the kids yet.
Yeah.
Even though I watched it as a kid, it's just amazing to see what I was allowed to watch as a kid.
Yep.
You know, that just
I waited for this one because I usually get hammered because this will be another one of those that get, there's arguments over whether it's a Christmas movie. Carvelli with The Love Actually. I will watch that.
I haven't seen that.
I will add the Simpsons Christmas episodes to my list. Christmas Story. There's an old movie with Bing Crosby. No, it's not with Bing Crosby. This one is different. Holiday Inn. Is it Bing Crosby? I don't know. Grinch. And then, of course, Charlie Brown Christmas, because I always like to kind of get back in that, that grumpy, Grinchy mode. So, and I will have more. I got a lot to get
good
to.
List. Yeah. Good list.
Yeah. And I'm not doing the argument, but not Die Hard. So, that's my personal opinion. Yeah.
Yeah. I need to get in on some of those. Like some of the best. By the way, the kids loved Elf, obviously, as well. But so much of the jokes are still a little bit over their head. Yeah. That's why they liked Home Alone, right? Nothing's over their head on Home Alone. It's all right there in their face. They like Elf. Yeah. They liked. Is it just Santa Claus? What's the one with? Yeah, Santa Claus. Tim Allen. Yeah.
No Santa Claus. Yeah. All right. So I'll have more. There were some other ones I was curious about, but Carvelli was asking about it, so I've done like 12 already. And I'll have to admit, Fred Claus, this is terrible, because I think I made the reference the other day that sometimes while I'm watching Christmas movies, I really like the season, that I might leak a little bit. I may have actually done it during Fred Claus.
Oh, boy.
So
my wife, it's funny
this COVID season and being locked down, I'm softer than ever.
My wife was like, we gotta watch a holiday movie, and there's a movie I want to watch with the girls, and so she's like, You've Got Mail. And I'm like, wait, that's a holiday movie? She's like, yeah, it's a holiday movie. I mean, Christmas comes and goes during the movie.
Right.
But my wife just wanted to watch You've Got Mail. I haven't watched it in forever. It was fine, but it's not a Christmas movie. And every maybe 10 minutes, we had to pause and explain life to my kids. They're like, wait, what's going on here? Like, what's this? Like, we had to explain AOL. We had to explain signing on to the internet, the modems, and like what email was like back then. We had to explain, like, chain stores versus mom and pop stores. And wow. Man, it was a whole thing. We indoctrinated those kids with our worldview by the end of it. It was out of control. But You Got Mail is not a holiday movie.
All right. Another topic that's non-legal. News came out today that Dan Le Batard, his show will be off ESPN Radio National, will be off our station, I think by the second week in January. I sent out the tweet, asked our listeners for reaction, and I would say 90 or 95% were like, God damn it. That was the only national show I like on ESPN radio, which, by the way, for local ESPN stations like ours, that's not good to hear at all. Like we need the national shows to be good so that people aren't, scrambling for the exits to go listen to their podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right. I saw your tweet and I just read the comments. I didn't tweet about it, but I was just gonna say, Le Batard Show is my favorite national show.
Why?
I like that they don't take themselves so seriously. Like at the end of the day, this is sports, man, right? And like we could talk and we could like what we're talking about here. We can venture off sports. And I like that there was a caricature-ness to it. It reminded me a little bit of a sports version of how Howard Stern used to be when I was first listening to radio. And so I like that. I like to know and feel like I know who the people are, even though I don't, right? Even though I get it. And so I didn't listen to it often. I'll tell you that. Like I didn't, just because I don't listen to national shows. I don't make an appointment to do it. If it's on when I'm driving, okay, cool. But if I was going to listen to a national show, it's on my podcast list. It's the only national show that's on my podcast list. I do also like Colin Cowherd, but I don't listen to him when he was on when he was on ESPN. I listened to him. I never listened to music in the morning. It was just convenient. It was part of my drive. But now it's not. But I like him too. I just haven't podcasted it. I don't know why. I guess I haven't missed it while it was gone.
Question on where Le Batard's going. He hasn't announced it yet, but he's made a podcast, giant platform, so he can pretty much go wherever he wants. I mean, I don't know. I would think Spotify, after signing Rogan for $100 million, would be a natural spot. But there's so many people looking for content, so many different companies. It could be something completely unique. So he's fine. He's fine. I think our station will probably go in the midday, unless we go 10 to 6, 10A to 6B. Midday will be probably Greeny and Kellerman back to back. That'll be 10 to 2.
Yeah. I'll wait till your show comes on.
It got real quiet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I don't know. I mean, when what I will say, when it was Mike and Mike in the morning, I get up or used to, at least at this time before lockdown, I get up pretty early. And part of my routine is like I would bridge that gap. This is years back now, but Mike and Mike in the morning, and then on to Colin's show. I'd listen to both, and Mike and Mike were good. They were fine. But like I am definitely not gonna try to organize some time to listen to Greeny, and I'm probably not going to podcast it either.
Now, keep in mind, the responses I get are not really a fair sample. Really?
Sure. It's Twitter too.
If they're following me, I think we do. I'm not saying we're as good as Le Batard, but we do a show that's closer to Le Batard than, say, Cowherd or Greeny. So if people are following me, they're more likely to enjoy an ensemble cast where they go off the reservation every once in a while and don't do sports. So we'll see what happens. I know one thing. Boy, let me find this. Let me find the one.
I will say this while you're finding that. I'll throw some accolades your way. In my prior life, before I got to, I guess, the size we are as a company and only doing plaintiffs work, when I was doing defense work, I used to travel all over the country doing depositions and hearings and stuff. I mean, I was all over, my miles were crazy on the airlines. And I would always make it a point to listen to local sports talk wherever I was. And your show's the best I've heard, and it's not even close. Not even close.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And my brother lives in Denver. It's really bad in Denver. It's really bad in Denver.
Denver,
San Diego too.
Denver is just hardcore Broncos all year long. And then what happens when the Broncos more than suck the last couple of years? But apparently that's what the audience wants, I guess.
Yeah, they don't stop. They don't. Rockies are in a playoff run. They don't even talk fucking Rockies. They don't talk Avalanche. They don't talk shit.
Nope.
Broncos.
And almost every show is dork like myself, former Bronco. almost every show is the same design. Like you have to have a player on the air on a show.
Yeah, it's real bad. My brother, he grew up here with me, obviously, and he streamed you guys.
Oh wow, that's cool. That's a good compliment. Yeah. So a guy named Tommy Reeder. I thought this was interesting because I'm wondering people who are listening to Kellerman solo now, because Kellerman's done sports radio before, but he did a two-person show in L.A. with Marcellus Wiley, and that was a popular show I hear in L.A. And then like you said, Greeny always had a partner, and now they're solo. And solo radio is different. You like there's different ways of choosing to do it. I've always been a fan of the ensemble cast and having that group like Le Batard. And you're right, the genesis of that are FM morning shows, but especially Stern. And you have a cast, and you find out about the workplace, and there's all different characters and all different opinions, and hopefully there's some laughter, right, in the whole thing. Tommy Reeder said, Dan's show was the only national ESPN program worth listening to anymore. Kellerman's show is completely underproduced, and he is just a pompous ass. Okay. So I was curious on the underproduced thing is fascinating. He said the whole show just seems unprepared, and the producer and Max are never on the same page and then bicker about it on the air. The guest conversations are always awkward, and he just ends the convo with a thank you or a goodbye. He also admits maybe I just don't like him. Generally. So, but generally, the underproduced thing is interesting. Actually, I do know the producer, and he's a really good producer, and he's been around for like 25 years. So, but this was, again, I'm not God's gift to radio. These guys make a lot of money. They're going to have a lot of fans, Greeny and Kellerman. But my one big fear, and I said it on the air, I said it here, when they changed up the ESPN national lineup, and my guess is they made some of the highest paid guys on their TV side sort of, earn their keep a little bit more, but they're doing a radio show after they're done on TV. That's not an easy thing. And you're naturally going to be like, the radio show. And I am a radio guy, and I try to respect the listeners and your time, and you have a lot of options now. It comes through when the host is like, the radio show. That's not good. So,
yeah, I thought Kellerman and Wiley were okay. I didn't listen to it religiously, but like I would get around to hearing it. I spent a lot of time in Southern California.
A lot of times people doing solo, like I'm different doing solo versus because you have to kind of pick a way to do the show. And like Wiley is, he gets kind of crazy. He's got a big personality, and Max, as the guy said, can come off as a little pompous. All of a sudden, it's his Ivy League education. It becomes a little bit lectury, and Greeny's kind of the same way. Like you need in his case, he needs the goofball athlete Golick to play off of. So again, I'm not God's gift to radio, but we'll see how it works out. I hope it works out.
I saw the tweet that you quote tweeted, and I don't remember who the personality was, and I don't even know the personality at ESPN, but she was mentioning about how, she wasn't thrilled to see Le Batard go. And the story she told is what I liked to hear. It made me feel good about being a Le Batard listener, which was, hey, man, when we go get coffee at the break at the mothership in ESPN, there's a long line, and there's TV on, and it's on Le Batard, and everybody's watching and smiling, right? Like everybody's into it. And that's like, the radio person's radio person, or the TV person's TV person. It's the ones that even they like to watch and get entertained by. And how could you not, unless you just want the hard sports all the time? And that's cool. I get that some people are down with that. That's just not how I want to be entertained,
Yeah. The other thing we got a lot of, as Truth from Duluth says here, is local radio is better. A lot of people are like, add more local radio. So I'm not in management. Again, I'll use the line, it's above my pay grade. I don't think anything's going to happen anytime soon because of COVID. Like, we've stripped down the station group a little bit. And I don't want to minimize it because a little bit could be your job. And we had some, good people on air who lost their jobs. So it's a big deal to them. They are losses, but I don't think we're going to have more local shows anytime soon. And you got to remember, we now have, we basically split our programming up into 3 stations. So while I want you to listen to ESPN Las Vegas all the time, we do have local shows on Raider Nation Radio. So that's where our local shows are. I still think we do need a show in some form or fashion on one of the 3 stations that covers that, that 10 to noon area, because I think we're all blank or national in that spot. So that would help. And down the road, there should be an evening show. If we're, who knows where we'll be. I could get fired tomorrow, right? I'm seeing people fired all the time. But we should have a nighttime show, like a 6 to 9 show or a 6 to 10 show, to get that audience. And especially in this town. I mean, we've got a shift worker town. So people are out driving all the time, and people are probably on that show would want to call in. You serve it as a pregame and a postgame. So just my 2 cents.
Yeah, and completely unrelated, apropos to nothing. Tomorrow we start demolishing some walls to build out the Battleborn Broadcast Center. That's we should be up and running in, I'm going to say, 5 weeks.
Oh, wow.
New year, we're going to be up. I'm pushing harder. The only thing that's holding me back, and you've seen the drawings, you see what we're trying to do there. Some of the furniture is back ordered like 5-6 weeks. So we've ordered it all, but it's going to take some time. The walls are coming down tomorrow.
Wow.
And I'm super excited for it.
Guess what? We were planning on doing maybe 2 shows a month, some podcasts. We might be doing 5 days a week. We might be there every day with COVID until the vaccine is out. So Pickle Gamer has a question for you. What's the end goal for the BBC? Why are you doing it?
I'm doing it because I love what we do, man. I love doing this. This isn't this isn't what I do to make money. This isn't what I do for my career. It's not what I do for a living. And I love the fact that, the listeners of this station utilize my services as a lawyer. That's cool. But I've been doing this show with you now for 8 years. And I like doing it, man. I like radio. I like doing it. And I think that there's an opportunity and a vacuum that exists in providing quality podcast studio space. So if you and I and the groups of talented people who have suffered as a result of, layoffs as part of the pandemic have a space that they can go and be creative and do podcasting, and I have the opportunity to provide that, then I'm in. And so who knows where it goes? I'm going to let it organically grow, and however it grows, man. There'll be 3 BCs, right? 3 BC hats for sure. We got to get a logo.
We really didn't explain anything. So Carvelli, we're doing shows now from Justin's offices like twice a month, and he's actually building out a full scale studio for podcasts. And also you do some TV. I know you guys want to produce more videos, and then Matt is on, I call it terrestrial, over the air TV, network TV, local network TV. And, I see his setup, which is cool. He's got the light. He's got like a laptop, like you're actually going to build a space for him. So it's a good TV studio.
Yeah, it's going to have. So the plans are done. Like I said, we're moving forward. The balls are getting knocked down. It's going to have 3 different sets all in one room that can be utilized. There's going to be what I'll call like the radio row. There's going to be a table with the 4 traditional, what are they called? The traditional radio mics that you see that are into the table. There's a 4 spot there that can be shot video wise too. So you could be video, radio, you podcast it. There'll be a green screen podium TV area, and then there'll be a sit down coffee interview type area, all of which will have a quality video, a quality audio. You can shoot whatever you want, man. The cameras will be mobile and fixed, whatever you want to do, man. It's gonna be cool. And if anybody wants to do it, hit me up. Text me on Twitter. I'm all about letting people explore this space, man, and doing some cool stuff with it. I like being around creative people, man. Creative driven people.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool. I've always thought that that our station, if you had the time and you had someone to manage it, we actually should be a creative outlet for just about anyone. Well, not maybe not just anyone, but folks who want to try podcasting or have a decently established podcast could use the studios or learn how to do some more technical stuff. So maybe that's in the
Yeah.
future. And by the way, Brady asked the most important question: are you excited to drop F-bombs on air in your own studio?
Yeah. Well, and Pro Martin Maker there, is that Martini Maker, asked whether or not it'll be rentable. We foresee that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're going to get comfortable with the people that we know first to see that we know how all the equipment goes and how everything works, and that it is user friendly for anybody, even if you don't know how to do this stuff. The idea is that this is all going to be controlled on a MacBook that stays in the studio, and you can zoom in, move around, put whatever cameras, whatever lighting. There's going to be fixed lighting. There's going to be mobile lighting. So yeah, we're all in for that. And I keep seeing JVT. Are you asking me how much it's going to cost to rent or how much it costs to build?
None yet. We had a couple of people asking how much it cost you to build, but it's a good investment. I'll say that. It's a real good investment.
Well, that's real harsh on the budget, man. I pushed it. I'll say
that stuff ain't cheap. That stuff ain't cheap. All the stuff he was mentioning, especially all the cameras, not cheap at all. What's going on here? Justin, when will you start doing anything with creative people?
Okay? I'm looking forward to the day.
Yeah. That's a good line too. I kid only when I care. Okay. That's where Justin's making a big investment. So the studio is a certain level of cost. There will also be another $8 million thrown in for Dan Le Batard and his podcast company, which, by the way, that's probably lowballing. If Joe Rogan got $100 million from Spotify, I'm not saying Le Batard's getting $100 million, but he'd be an asset for Spotify if they're really making a run at the podcast world, a big run. Then Le Batard's going to make a lot of money,
Yeah, and not to switch subjects too much, Carvelli, but I'm signing the franchise agreement here in the next 30 days.
Oh wow!
So that'll put a timeline for I'm signing to block off all of Vegas will be mine for this franchise. So the development plan will be 3 restaurants within 6 years. First one up within a year.
What else can you do? Is that going to keep you busy?
No.
There goes your golf key. There goes your golf key.
No, absolutely not. This is all designed to be on the course more, not less, right? When I see an opportunity where I can find to be associated with driven, intelligent, creative, driven people, and they want to do the work, and all I got to do is do the investment, like I'm all down for that. I just want to be around that.
So you can see where Justin's going with this. I will be announcing soon that I will not be part of any of this podcast stuff or the studio, but I will be making food at his restaurant. I almost slipped and actually mentioned the food items, but yes, I will be developing as probably just a line cook, which is a good job, but I won't be a high level chef. I don't think I can do that based on the stakes I've shown. I'm a little short on talent that way.
Adam, you don't need to worry. I'm going to be playing twice next week. I played 3 times in the last 10 days. The golf game's not going to suffer. We're going to be fine. And Steve, we're going to be doing lots of remotes from the restaurant when it gets done. Lots of remotes.
I'm glad I just found out. That's good news.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That's awesome. All right, let's get back to a couple legal things before we close things out. And if you got more questions, fire away. Yep. There. Did you? We already mentioned this one, Adam. There will be an air fryer. I think that's in the plans. That's the build out. It's the first all air fryer restaurant.
You want to go with that? I thought you was talking about the air fryer in the 3BC. Oh, it's on the side. It'll have a ready-made section for your own snacks. Throw some fries in, throw some chicken wings in. Yeah.
This is a good reference here. Is Allegiant paying Battleborn for the new building? Why, if you had just stayed in office, you'd be potentially voting on funding for the 3BC, like public funding for it.
Right.
Get together with Michelle Fiore. Just give Michelle Fiore the proposal. She's not going to fucking read it because she didn't read the stadium proposal, and you're good to go. Well, she's not part of the state level government anymore. So we're lucky enough to have her here as part of the city council.
That was never. I never looked into I this is gonna sound like way too altruistic. I'm not trying to say that, but my involvement in the government never had to do with trying to maximize whatever leverage I could get from being in public office to enrich myself in some other endeavors. Really, the precipice of it was, and this is behind the curtain all the way, is in 2015 when the Republicans had all three branches in Nevada. They came after trial lawyers pretty hard, and they instituted a lot of laws that made what I do more difficult. And not just what I do, but getting access to justice for the consumers who need lawyers. And that started me on the path. Is like, hey, we cannot be a state that believes that right to jury trial, even though it's in the Constitution, isn't fundamental. That people shouldn't, the average everyday citizen shouldn't have access to the courts and legal counsel. And that was what got me started. Is like, that's what I want to do. I don't need to make another penny because I got elected. I don't want to get elected just to get reelected. So I'm going to try to do this one session the very best I can, not worrying about whether or not some big group is going to support me the next following election, because I didn't think I was going to do it again anyway. And I'm not the only one. I'll just say that on state politics, I'm not the only one. There's a lot of good people that do this out of a sense of duty to their community.
Good.
Sure, there's some people that are using it as stepping stones, no doubt about it. And there's some people that like the title or whatever. But to those people, I always said, nobody fucking knows who you are or knows who I am. Nobody knows what an assemblyman is. Nobody knows. Nobody cares, right? So let's just do the best we can. And I'll say the majority of people that serve the state of Nevada are doing it out of a sense of duty, because it sure as hell ain't the money. There is no money in it.
John's going back to my Michelle Fiore comment, says still one of the best interviews I've been a part of in my career.
100%. 100%. I mean, it was so great.
Basically,
I know exactly where I was when that happened. I was
really?
outside of my daughter's gymnastics class. I dropped them off and I needed to pick them up. And I was like, I can't go in until I absolutely have to, because I got to hear where this interview goes. I remember exactly where it was. That's how good that interview was.
Yeah, we were pushing her on the stadium funding, and I think as the interview went along, she realized she wasn't really prepared to talk about it, even though she rubber stamped $750 million. And we pushed, and I don't think we were nasty about it, but we pushed, and finally she was like, kind of like, I'm tired. I've been up for a long time, and basically admitted she really didn't read through the proposal. And one, I don't think she cares much, but two, I don't think she realized what she had just said, and how bad that was going to come off. But I don't think she certainly was not the only one who was like, wait, what, who do I have to do her favor for? Whose money am I going to get for my, next political venture? Unfortunately, that thing got passed, and there weren't a lot of people who were super diligent in doing the research.
Yeah, I think there were.
Now, by the way, I want to jump in. I'm glad we have a stadium. I'll reiterate this. I'm glad we have a stadium. It's going to pay dividends. We got screwed here by COVID, and you can explain again that, the whole money deal, having to pull some extra money in. I always thought all along we as Nevadans could have gotten a better deal. Not
100%. We could have got a better deal. No doubt about it. I think
we need the stadium. It's going to be a positive, but man, there could have been a little negotiating and a battle over the whole thing.
Yes, no doubt about it. There absolutely could have been a better deal. I will say, what was problematic about saying, let's just be honest about how this works. In the legislature, during the 4-month session, there are on the order of 1,200 bills that are proposed in 120 days. Impossible to read them all. It's not. That's why you have the committee system. And so you serve on 3 different committees that may see anywhere from 30 to 150 bills on each of those committees. That might be low. A little bit higher. The high end is a little bit higher than that. And then a lot of bills will die out. They'll just never see the light of day. So, the amount of bills that really need to be read and detailed and gone over and fought over is somewhere around 600 to 900. The committee, when your role is on the committee, is to read that bill, do the best you can in hearing, to fetter out the weaknesses, the strengths, to really understand its implication, and then propose any amendments that you think are needed to make that bill right or better or whole. And then when it gets reported out, when it gets voted out of committee, there's going to be a whole bunch of people that serve in the legislature that on the floor are going to look at the vote in the committee and say, it was unanimous in a committee. I'm not going to read that bill because I can't prioritize it. They've done their job in committee. I have to move on to this bill that's in my committee or that is more important. And that's just the truth of it. I did not read 1,200 bills. You can't. It's impossible. You don't have the time. So you have to come up with that prioritization. What was problematic about what Fiore said in our interview with you was that was a special session with one bill.
Yep.
Right? That was the bill. And the committee was what is known as a committee on the whole. They were all on the committee together. They all had the opportunity to ask questions together. And Senate and Assembly together did this hearing. So it was incumbent upon everybody to prepare themselves if you were going to sit in that hearing and ask questions. What happens to some of the people who are less prepared? Here's what happens. They have their cell phone, they have their lobbyist, and their lobbyist feeds them questions and they ask it. So anytime you see somebody who says, oh, they're reading and they say, oh, I can't read my handwriting, or I took these notes late last night, that's bullshit, right? Because if you have your own questions, you know exactly where you're going to go and you don't get a bunch of them, right? You've prioritized what your questions are going to be and you're going to get them out, right? That's how the system works. In that special sessions in SB1 on the stadium, there were a ton of people who did a lot of the hard work. I'm going to point to one in particular whose questions were so pointed and so prepared. He did such a good job, but he just couldn't get everybody else there with him because they worked way into the night. They bled these guys dry, right? They just overworked them. Was Elliot Anderson, who served 4 terms in the Assembly. He no longer serves in the Assembly, licensed lawyer now. He served while he went to law school. And as a vet, he's awesome. He was really prepared, asked tons of tough questions, but there just wasn't, and there was a lot of people who did a lot of hard work to make that deal as good as it was. If they could have gotten more people to be as prepared as they would have realized there was more room to go, and we still would have got the deal done, right? That's the art of lawmaking, is how good of a deal can I get to get something that we still think is a asset to this community. And I think everybody, both sides, both lobbyists on both sides, for and against that thing, would tell you there was more room.
Yeah. And the fact that they shoehorned it in before the election, good question here from Pickle Gamer about lame ducks called back for that last session. So.
Oh yeah. That session was, let's see, it was about 2 weeks prior to when I was elected. So that was in mid-October. The election was in November. And if you call a special session, unlike what's happening with the president, which is they're not sworn in until January 20th, if you're elected in the state of Nevada, the Assembly or the Senate, that day at midnight, you become an Assembly member or a Senate. Now, we're not in session, so I'm not officially sworn in because there's no need for it. But if a special session had been called after November, I would have gone. I would have been sworn in. So the Republicans controlled the Assembly, the Senate, and the governorship, and they felt pretty strongly that they weren't going to control it again. And so the Governor Sandoval, wanted this special session right before. And to answer your question, how many lame ducks? Of the 63, I think it was more than 18. 18 of those people switched seats. I was one of them. My Assembly member, who I was running against, I beat him. He came out. There was, I think it was 15 in the Assembly and 3 in the Senate, but I might be wrong on that, but I think that's what it was. Anyway, the Senate and the Assembly both flipped control from Republican to Democrat. I don't know if that was more than what he was asking.
No, that was good. We that was really all that stuff was good. I liked the cell phone thing, having to look at the notes. We talked yesterday on the radio show about the stadium funding is short. They pulled some money. So explain that. It's not good, but it's not like some devastating deal where everyone has to start screaming and yelling. We don't want it to keep going on, but where did that money come from to make up the shortfall from the hotel tax stuff?
Yeah, I mean, there were some headlines about, hey, pulled from reserve funds in order to make the bond payment for the stadium. And what that sounded like to people, reasonably so, is, oh, great, now we're paying for the stadium. They told us we weren't going to pay for it, and now we're paying for it. It's our tax dollars in our rainy day fund, right? So two different things. The state of Nevada has a rainy day fund that every bit of a budget, they portion some of it off into the rainy day fund for when they have budget shortfalls. We currently have exhausted our rainy day fund. We took it all out in the first special session that they just called after the lockdown in June to get, or July, to get us across. Okay. And when they funded the stadium, one of the things that they did well was they said, okay, here's the projections of how much in room tax we need to get in order to make our bond payments. What happens when we collect more than that? What do we do with that money? Because we're not going to keep changing the tax rate to just try to hit that number. We might have months where we go way over. We might have months where we go under. What are we going to do with that excess money? And there's what's called a pour over clause. A cascading down of those funds. But the first place it goes is into a stadium reserve fund. And that fund has to be filled up by the statute for 2 years worth of bond payments. So any excesses and room taxes goes into that reserve fund until that number hits 2 years worth of payments. After that, I don't remember where it goes, but maybe after like the fifth or sixth bucket, it gets down to like, there's like a stadium improvement fund and there's something else. And then I think eventually it might even get down to the schools eventually, but it's definitely not one of the top two. So good news is in the first 2 years that'd be the first 3 years of them collecting this tax. We blew through the projections. We collected way more than we thought we were going to. A couple of the months hit almost double what we thought we were going to get. And so all that money went to the reserve fund. We never got to 2 years, but in 3 years, we got to, or 4 years now, we got to 1.5 years of bond payments in the reserve fund. Meaning, if all room taxes stopped, and we had no money coming in, we could pay for those bond payments for 1.5 years before we as taxpayers would be on the hook. So they pulled out 100, I don't know the number. I don't want to say the wrong number. Tens of millions out of the reserve to make the last payment on the bond. There's still more money left. I think we can still go a year before on zero room tax and still be okay. Clearly, the room taxes aren't zero, so we should have a pretty decent cushion. Certainly, should be able to make it through the vaccines. That's the hope. And then hopefully it's the roaring 20s in Vegas, right?
Say it again.
Hopefully it's the roaring 20s in Vegas, right? Like some people are predicting that this might happen like after the Spanish flu lockdown, where people just wanted to congregate and the parties just started. And I hope that's true, man. I hope people want to come to Vegas rather than go to some private island, secluded island somewhere, because they've been secluded for a year. Right. They want to see people. They want to hang out with people. They want to go to nightclubs. They want to go to events. So hopefully Vegas just comes booming back. That's the hope.
So I don't want to put you on the spot here, but Ben Roy just brought up a related story.
Yep.
Did you see this lawsuit? So I'll punch it up. Nevada sues online travel booking companies for dodging hotel room taxes. What do we got here?
I don't know their basis for this. I mean, their evidence for this, but they claim that the online bookings avoided or short paid over $100 million in taxes, room taxes to the state of Nevada. So if that's true, that's great. Now, I wish I could have been the whistleblower on this. It was Sig Rogich and Mark Ferraro, who's an attorney in town, I believe. Is that right?
Mark Fierro.
Okay. Yeah. And so when you're the whistleblower, you stand to financially benefit. You get a portion of whatever's received as any settlement or judgment. So they're going to get, in theory, if this works, they're going to get a pretty penny. So good for them. But hey, if they get us, if we get $75 million into the budget that we didn't think we were going to get because they brought this lawsuit because they discovered it. I don't know how they discovered it, but great. Then let's do it.
All right. Love it. Love it.
So Brady asked what portion he gets. Whistleblower statutes vary, and they require federal approval, but in theory, 25%. And then out of that 25%, sometimes you have to pay the attorneys, but a lot of times the attorney's fees is a separate award. So he doesn't even have to pay attorneys with it.
All right, folks, we're going to cut it off. Justin, appreciate it. Funny thing is, we left about another hour on the cutting room floor, so we'll get in next Wednesday and next Thursday. So really good stuff. One of the best nights, I think, of questions for Justin. So that was really good, and you can hear some. There's some good stuff on the way with Justin and what we're doing. So we're back tomorrow, normal time. I know for sure. Koken will be on, and we'll see who else we can wrangle up as we do a lot of picks and leans for both college football and the NFL. And remember, tomorrow, if you are going out, we will be down at the TI doing the live show.